So firstly, we're going to talk about the storyline, why we came up with it. So obviously it was based off a play, Mother Courage, which is mostly uses themes of war, so we thought it had to be based on war. So we wanted to change it up and make it slightly different, so we decided to set it in the future.
But we still used like the characters from Mother Courage, like Katrin, Mother Courage, Edith and Swift.
And we also used today's current political problems that could be hypothetical and like blow up in the future.
Yeah, so I think we put quite a lot of thought into the backstory behind the war, so that we had quite a good idea of what we were working with, and it would make it easier to actually do the play even if it wasn't incorporated into the actual script. So I think we decided to base it on the future. We did quite a bit of we looked into lots of different books like The Heart Goes Last, Handmaid's Tale, Hunger Games, which really helped us to create a dystopian kind of future kind of setting that the audience could understand because they've seen it in media before.
Some techniques of Brecht that we used.
The techniques that we used placards for establishing the future in the first scene,
and also
having the applause on the other side, so
we were kind of telling the audience what to do to kind of make them feel included in the piece.
Yeah, and also breaking the fourth wall.
I think we broke the fourth wall on multiple times. We had a few monologues. We had Tom's monologue where he was telling the audience about the stuff he's done.
We had one where like the asking of the audience question.
So we had a montage scene because we thought it was a good way to alienate the audience. We were going to have Skye play a soldier who dies in the scene, but because we were having a very emotional scene at the end.
That's not my name.
We created some comedy so that it would alienate the audience from the emotion. We didn't want them to feel the emotion of Skye's on the floor. I think the montage was used to kind of show her death in a way that wasn't emotional, so that
the audience doesn't get like attached to the character.
And you'd have Rhianna's emotional death at the end, and it wouldn't take away from that as well.
Also, the montage scene was showing Elif's experience in the war and how he got along in it.
I think Brecht uses montage as a way to highlight like issues or highlight things without having to go too deep into them. So we thought we could incorporate that technique as a way to kind of show what Elif's been through without having to make it too long and too big a part of the story.
We had freeze frames as well, multiple times, when like Bruce and Tom, when they had their little part and it was Skye's funeral, and also during Tom's monologue when he was all like freeze framed in the thing, which I thought that was pretty cool.
I was freeze framed as somebody
and in the song.
Yeah, we also had a freeze frame in the song. I think you two were freeze framed as if you're about to go into an interrogation, and me and Skye were freeze framed as if she was about to shoot me, so that people could the audience could understand what was happening. We also used Laban efforts, so we learnt quite a lot about that. I think we used them throughout the piece.
The character.
So obviously in like the war scene we were using like Slash. We were using Punch. I think Tom used Laban efforts quite a lot.
I was using Flick in the montage scene, like in the Skye's death. I noticed that.
Yeah, I think Tom used quite a lot of Laban efforts. He was quite kind of floating at the beginning when he was a presenter. He was a very like bubbly person. He had to kind of float. I think we all kind of incorporated Laban techniques into our characters.
And we also thought about how to become the character and like what body part they lead with and stuff. Like when I was Katrin, I kind of led more with my shoulders because she was more like, you know, in kind of thing.
Yeah.
And when we were
'cause she, like,
soldiers, we was more
represents
leading with our
innocence.
feet. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we
And
decided on the
multi-role.
characters. Oh yeah, we also used multi-rolling. Multiple times. I think we had our basic characters.
Yeah, we had our main characters, and then on the side we had characters as soldiers, and that's it.
And then
really.
for Tom's montage scene,
And
I
then
was
Tom's
I
montage.
was just like a guilty person.
I was the sergeant, basically playing the character of Tom
Yeah.
in a different situation because he was doing the monologue.
Yeah, I think.
That was also Skye as well. Skye was playing another situation where the character Tom was playing was executing this innocent person.
Okay, so we decided to. I think we should talk about characters. We decided to keep
Yeah.
the original family from Mother Courage because we
So we
wanted.
didn't stray away from
Yeah.
Mother Courage
we
because
did-
we had
had kind of strayed away on the plot.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
we have a lot of different factors
and it
with
was like
the
set in the
plot, so we
future,
kind of
different
needed
things.
to bring that back to Mother Courage and keep
Yeah,
it based
and we were
on
basing
Mother
it around a
Courage.
family, so it made sense that we'd use
Yeah.
that family because we did find it quite an interesting family dynamic. With
Yeah.
the, like single mother, 3 children. They were all quite different characters, so.
Yeah.
I think we did quite a bit of. We looked into the characters quite a lot. Tried to
Yeah.
Yeah.
did some improvisation to try and. It's more of a Stanislavski technique, but we used some improvisation to try and get into those characters and understand them without just reading from a script.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we also had to include Tom's characters and Skye's character. I think Skye, we kept her name as Skye just because we thought it was a good name for the character.
Yeah.
Like, it just worked with the character. But she also played a different character at the beginning, which you decided on yourself. So do you want to talk about that?
Like the name of it and stuff.
Or not?
Jaquan. At the beginning of
that
the
added
play,
kind of
I was in the
comedy.
audience. At the beginning of the play, I was placed in the audience, and then by breaking the fourth wall, I was added onto the stage, picking a name that I choose at the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that name was quite funny as well because it added comedy to like a serious scene. It was me and Ruby. It was our death scene, and like you've got like a funny name, and it's like a game
we
show
made
kind
it.
of thing.
It was
Which
like
I
we
thought-
really wanted to contrast. We really wanted it to be like something you wouldn't expect.
Yeah.
That's the position.
Yeah.
Thank you, Skye.
Contributing.
How did our original development go? I think we almost straight away came up with the future idea.
Yeah.
We knew straight away we
I
wanted
think
to
because
set it in the
everyone else was
future.
going into like the past and stuff like that.
and we
Yeah.
felt like it was a bit restrained setting it in the past because
There's
it was
only
in
so
World
much you
War
can
One.
do.
We know what happened, so we thought if we based it in the future, we'd have more freedom to kind of go off. And
Yeah, and also in the past, there's only so much you can do because you can't exactly change the past and things like that. So
Yeah,
if it's
so
in the future, and
with the
things
future,
are constantly
there's-
developing as well.
Yeah, and there's so many ideas that you can come up with, and it's not like one thing that you have to go with because it happened. There's
Yeah.
so many possibilities in the future.
And because like things in the future are constantly developing,
Yeah.
we could have used like so much imagination
Yeah.
of what we think could be like in 10 years' time.
Yeah.
I think we did know that the future was going to be quite difficult to portray on stage because
Yeah.
we obviously no one knows what the future looks like.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
we had to show that it was the future without any guideline of what the future might look like.
Yeah.
So yeah, that
Um,
was a bit of a
So
challenge.
we did use the placards, which made it quite clear from the start. But obviously, we still needed to show so the audience didn't forget. So
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
we used the game show, which was quite a good way to show because obviously nothing like that's ever happened before. Like
Yeah.
something so modern with something so like medieval kind of
Yeah.
punishment.
We also had like because when other people did like their like pieces when they was in the war, they had all of the soldiers being men, and we had like men and women.
Yeah.
Because like in the future, obviously, like things are becoming more equal now. So that was another thing that we did.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we obviously we originally did talk about doing a like focusing on where the war started.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But we thought that would be quite a complicated topic. We wouldn't be able to make a short play out of that. Like, we didn't really know how we'd make a play out of that.
Yeah.
So we thought it would just be best to focus on a family.
And like how the wars affected them.
And we did want it to have quite an emotional ending, but we didn't want the whole play to be emotional because we did need to stick to the Brechtian
Yeah.
techniques. But yeah, so if we talk about feedback, we didn't receive too much feedback, I don't think.
No, we didn't.
Unfortunately, we could have probably used some more feedback. We did, I think on our first scene we did get quite a bit of feedback because originally our first scene wasn't a game show, it was just an execution.
Yeah.
And Tom kind of just decided to play the role of the executor as quite a happy person.
Yeah, and
So-
kind of glorified the execution.
So when we showed it to our class, they said that it kind
Maybe
of
like-
had like a kind of game show.
like a Hunger Games, it kind of felt like Hunger
Yeah.
Games.
And I think Alex suggested the wheel.
Yeah.
So we kind of just ended up going into the whole game show, and it
And like the
ended up
music,
being-
and also the music worked because Breck uses song and stuff
yeah.
for that.
So we did get feedback on volume and projection, so obviously we did need to work on that. I think we put quite a lot of effort into increasing our volume and projection.
Yeah.
And we were also told that we could use comedy as a way to alienate the audience. So, like
So
with
we-
Skye's death.
Yeah,
we-
Skye's death.
as soon as she died, we made a joke,
It was like, oh no, Katrin,
like
that's
we'd messed up.
yeah. It was like, no, that's not her name, kind of thing.
Like we had Skye rise from the dead to tell Doris
Yeah,
that
like
that
said
wasn't
it
her
wrong.
name.
And also there was kind of some comedy in the first scene as well, because it was kind of weird that Tom was
Yeah,
being this
like
very happy
when-
person and basically being excited for
Yeah,
the rebels to be executed.
Yeah,
So
I
that
think
was
Tom improvised that scene quite a lot.
Yeah.
And did quite well in that.
Yeah.
We kind of came up with most of the ideas for that scene just from improvisation alone.
yeah.
Like when Ruby decided to like scream and start like having a go at him, and he just
Yeah.
told her to shut the fuck up in
Yeah, I
a
think that
really
was
like
patronising
That
way.
patronising
yeah,
way.
It's like, no, be quiet.
Yeah.
Yeah, like that.
Okay, so if we talk about the issues we faced, I don't think we had too many issues, but we did have a few issues that came in quite late on.
Yeah, that we had to try and solve quite quickly.
And also at the start, all of our scenes were kind of like one huge mess. So
we had ideas, but we hadn't really like
yeah, we
I
had
I
like
think we just kind of
ideas.
threw all our ideas in, and we didn't really
know where
know
to
what-
go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So obviously there was the scarf,
Oh
which
yeah.
wasn't
we
too
had.
big an issue.
Well, we thought at first it was because we was like, no, that's such a perfect scarf, and like the scarf is significant.
'Cause we
and
did-
was
Does
like-
we
the
did
colour
need a-
even have any significance?
we
I
thought
think
like
we
violence.
thought the colour red had significance because Katrin represents innocence in
Yeah.
the play, and obviously red is kind of the opposite of
and
that.
that she's
like
being
blood.
corrupted,
Yeah.
kind
Like-
of. That's
Yeah.
on her. So that's kind
Yeah,
So
of
we had
yeah.
her wearing the scarf at all times. Just it also was just a really easy way to show who her character was,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and that got thrown out.
And I also liked how what I thought kind of when I give the scarf back when I'm gonna get killed,
Yeah.
because I'm giving the violence of like because it kind of
Like you're
represents
letting
violence.
go
Yeah,
of
let me go
violence.
while I'm about to get killed.
And then she's also putting it onto her family, so like the violence of like her death, she's
It's been put
it's
onto her
been put
family.
onto her family.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we did lose the scarf, so
Yeah.
that was a bit of an issue.
But luckily, we found a red flag, and we used the fabric out of that to.
Yeah, because the tech guys and that they cleaned up the whole costume cupboard, and then we
And they
was
threw
looking
it
for it,
out.
and yeah.
Yeah, that was
But we
annoying.
managed, right at the end, to find one that worked for
Literally
the
the
piece,
day
and I think it
before.
worked better to be
Yeah.
I liked it more. 'Cause
It was
it
more
more of a
vibrant,
bright red as
yeah.
well.
Yeah, it wasn't as see-through.
Yeah.
So as the wheel, we were always going to have a wheel that
Like
In the
a
background,
projected.
like a projected wheel
a spin
to
the wheel
decide
kind of
whether
thing.
or not Ruby died.
Yeah, and Tom found this like.
App kind of
App.
thing.
Yeah,
Or
we had it all
website.
planned out.
Yeah,
and
we
then
had the wheel and everything. We just couldn't.
about a week
apparently-
before, we got told that we
sent
couldn't
it
use
too
it
late.
anymore.
Yeah, which was
because it
annoying.
wasn't Brechtian. So we weren't really sure what we were going to do there. We originally just had like imagined it was there, but we kind of realised that we did get some feedback that didn't make too much sense.
Yeah, so then...
And like we should get like a placard and maybe spin it, and it's one says one side
so
says
yeah,
kill,
I
and
think
says no kill.
I'm not sure how well that worked because we did have to improvise that right
And
at
we
the
literally
end.
did that like 2 hours before the actual show.
Yeah, I think I just went
Was it
backstage
like
and
the
just made
first
it.
time we used it was our actual performance?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't even know when the music stopped. I just had this placard that I had to spin, and I had no idea how. I think our biggest issue was
Rihanna
spraining
her ankle.
Yeah, because we had a big dance thing as well for when I'm writing the letter to Doris, who was playing Elif.
Also to like kind of show
Like
Catherine's
the emotion,
feelings because she
can't
doesn't
speak.
talk.
Yeah.
She can't speak, so the dancing was supposed to show her emotion and like her emotional
Yeah, and then
thought
we
or
did.
something like that.
We were gonna have Ruby do the dance, but it didn't really make as much sense
Because
because she wasn't part of it.
and I
And
think
we
it
thought
was
it just kind of crowded the scene a bit because it was meant to
Yeah.
be like a emotional scene between
Yeah.
just you and Doris.
and also it was quite like it was like a week or two before the show. I don't think you'll have enough time to with a
learn a
sprained
whole
ankle
Yeah.
learn and teach Ruby a dance. And then we thought
Yeah,
it wasn't actually
so
that
we kind of
significant.
thought it wasn't gonna work very well and probably wasn't worth the amount of time it was gonna take to teach
Yeah.
Ruby a whole dance.
And like perfect it and clean
When we
it up.
had a lot to
Yeah.
get through.
Yeah.
But yeah, there was we did end up having to ask Emily if she'd be able to join our piece and play your character.
Just
we
in
didn't
case.
know. We didn't know if I could.
Just
we
in
didn't
case
know if
Rhianna couldn't show up.
you were going to be able to be in the play.
Because that was before I knew it was sprained and I thought it was gonna be broken.
Yeah, so we did have to kind of think about that. We weren't really sure what we were going to do because obviously you have the big song at the end and
Yeah.
you're the one who has the voice.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And then another issue
Skye.
was Skye. Skye joined our group probably about 3 weeks in, so I think that was probably more difficult for Skye to have to.
Yeah, and we had like all these ideas, and we already came up with like the first 3 scenes, so it was kind of hard to add
Put me
Skye
in.
in there.
How did it feel like coming in like 3 weeks late?
A
And
bit
we already
jarring.
had like like 4 scenes.
We did it all. We sorted everything out, and then we made a whole group about it, and then we were all like, "Oh, I'll do this," because there was only like 3 of us. It was me, Alex, Sadie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cass moved to media,
Yeah.
and Lacey was in the hospital, so we were just all 3 of us. I had like 4 roles, and they all had 3 roles, and we already did it all. And the next day I come in, different group now, go crazy. So then I was in this group, and then I was like, oh,
Did you think you was gonna find it difficult, like learning everything, or?
not really. I have a good memory.
Were you worried about how much you'd be able to contribute?
Yeah. I don't think I tried, but I felt like I
No, I think you
think
put
you-
like quite a lot of effort.
Yeah.
I think considering you joined 3 weeks late, we already had the material that we wanted.
And
I
we had
couldn't
most
really
of the
give
scenes.
anything.
Yeah.
Like, I
You
couldn't
did
really-
contribute quite a lot to the scenes
Yeah.
that we hadn't done.
Yeah.
But then I also
Um,
think with Skye coming in, we kind of focused more on fitting Skye into the roles and making sure she knew what she was doing, and like
'Cause
time
we did
was
have to
passing,
create a whole new
Yeah.
character.
and we had
Yeah.
to like come up with even more scenes to kind of
Put me
make
in
the
it.
story flow and
Yeah.
also have Skye in it. So I think that was also an issue that we came across.
I think that worked really well, actually.
Yeah, it did work
I
in
think
the
we
end.
did kind of need her in the end.
Yeah.
Yeah.
With what we did.
Yeah.
With what we
Especially
came up
with,
with
like,
in
the
the end, I
first
think it was
scene.
better.
She's really
Yeah.
fun to work with as well.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
Especially with the first scene, because it was kind of nice to have her in the audience.
So we could break the
Fourth
fourth wall
wall.
Yeah.
without having to get like an actual proper audience member,
I
and then
think-
they'd get confused and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I think Skye did make our job a bit easier. She kind of took on the roles that were going to be a bit complicated for us to
Yeah.
multi-role.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think she also brought some comedy into it, because it was kind
Oh
of
yeah.
like
Yeah, like the scene at the
like
beginning.
my
Yeah.
death scene.
yeah.
Yeah.
She brought in as bulletproof or
Yeah.
unbulletproof.
Yeah.
Bulletproof, and then no, I'm
I
not.
think we did have to make her death scene quite funny,
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
because.
You're
Like,
kind of a
I'm a
comedic
comedic-
person.
She's one of the comedic people in the group.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. So should we talk about the skills we learned? I think we
Yeah.
had a few lessons on Laban efforts, so we did
Yeah.
learn those skills.
Yeah.
So yeah, anyone want to talk about Laban efforts?
Yeah.
Stretch.
Rihanna gets out her laptop.
Give her a minute.
Larvin efforts. So we learnt about Larvin and that he was like a dancer, a choreographer, and movement theoretician.
So I think it's a way to kind of incorporate like dance movement into acting.
And like we learnt about the 8 different efforts, like floating, dabbing, ringing, punching, pressing, flicking, slashing, and gliding.
Yeah.
So I don't think any of us really had any clue what they were when we started. I've
Yeah,
never
we was
heard the
all
word
kind of
Laban. So we did have to
confused.
kind of learn that. We had to
Yeah.
learn about like whether it was like fast or slow or all that kind of stuff. So incorporating that was kind of hard, but we needed to do it. So I think we did learn quite a lot about Laban and how using Laban efforts. I think it did help us because I think it helped us create our characters, like how they walked, how they acted. If we had like a specific effort, Laban effort in mind while doing our character, it would help us to keep the character all the way through, like keep the same movement to show who our character was.
Yeah.
I think projection was an issue. Like at the beginning, none of us were really.
I think we're all quite like quiet-ish.
And then I'm
Yeah, I
also
don't think
worried
any
that
of
I'm
us
being
have
too loud.
And I don't want it, because sometimes when you try and project, you kind of shout a bit more.
Yeah.
You can't really, I feel like you
I
can't
don't
really,
think any of us have those kind of like loud voices.
And
apart from the
also-
boys, like Tom and Doris, they was fine.
They were okay.
And also with like, because we did have like moments in there that we were shouting, so it was hard to have us talking,
Loudly.
but like have it loudly and find the difference between us talking
Also,
and
I think
shouting.
when you're on stage and you're being loud, it sounds like you're talking really loud, but then you realise like it wasn't actually as loud as you think it is.
Yeah, I think it's quite hard to
Like
know.
differentiate the difference.
I think we did practice quite a lot. In all our rehearsals, I think we got louder each time.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
I think
yeah.
we kind of got to that point where we were at the right level, but it did take quite a bit of work, especially in the song as well. Like, obviously singing is quite difficult to use like the right pitch and the right. I don't know. I'm not
And I
singing.
wonder,
I think that's quite obvious.
in our performance, I wonder if we were loud enough. Because I'm like, I don't
know if I was loud enough, because I feel like I was. To be fair though, I was catching. I didn't really have much to say.
Yeah.
So
I think from the feedback we got from the audience, like our parents, they all seemed to understand our play. They all seemed to know what was going on.
Yeah.
I think we could talk about the feedback we got after the play. So like I know my grandparents came to watch and they said that they did find the storyline easy to follow, but there were points where they felt a little bit confused because
that's what my mum said.
there were points where they kind of felt like they weren't quite sure like what was happening, but
Yeah.
it felt like it got cleared up towards the end, but maybe we could have avoided that confusion earlier on.
Yeah.
So I think they knew what the play was at the end, but at certain points in the middle they were a bit confused.
Yeah.
Also think there are a few issues with preparation. We like a few times where we weren't really sure where we were meant to go off stage, where
Yeah, like that whole thing of when we were supposed to like merge with the other groups when coming
don't
off
think we
at
really
the whole
did
end
that.
of it. We didn't do that.
Oh
Conrad
yeah,
just
it was
went
like
over
we
there,
had
and I was
to,
like,
I guess
okay.
it's for the emotion, because I was supposed to go first with Emily and she just kind of really went on with the chairs. I was like, right.
So yeah, also Rhianna, Ruby, Tom and Doris, you all did chair duets. Me and Skye didn't do that because Skye wasn't there originally and Michael, my partner, didn't come in. So do you guys want to talk about your chair duets?
Oh, the chair duet. I thought was interesting.
Yeah, it was
'Cause
basically what we were doing is like
him hands.
we were doing him hands, and it was kind of like a civilian and soldier,
Didn't
which
we
is
have
basically the
story
whole.
That, I was like the husband and you was the wife, but I was like being corrupted by the war.
Yeah, we did have that, and then also
I thought your piece was quite interesting with the like physicality of the way you were kind of.
I was
soft
supposed
and
to. I was
then-
supposed to
and then
crawl,
violent.
crawl for her legs, by the way, but you know. sprained
Also,
ankle.
our piece wasn't like violent to each other. Like we didn't like hate each other.
Yeah,
we
it
were
wasn't
kind
to
of,
each other. It was more around. It was
Yeah.
more violent with the surroundings and
Yeah.
stuff like that.
Yeah, I
Um,
thought I was focused mostly on obviously you two's
Yeah.
duet and Tom's duet and Doris's duet.
Yeah.
But I found yours. I thought the storyline was quite good. Like I could kind of understand what your relationship was.
Yeah.
because I was kind of like helping you.
Yeah, and you was, like,
feeding
hugging you.
It was
and
kind of
hugging
like
you.
it was kind of like softness and
Yeah.
then switched with a bit of kind of aggression and then back to soft.
Yeah.
It was kind of like there was definitely some relationship between your characters that had changed, but was like it was quite clear that you knew each other well.
Yeah.
Like your characters knew each other well. So should we all just go around and say what our personal contributions
Yeah.
were?
Yeah.
Should I start?
Yeah, go on.
Okay, so I think me and Tom kind of came up with the idea of the future originally. So I've read quite a lot of books based in the future. I find it quite interesting. So I already had quite a good idea of how I thought we could
Yeah.
like show that. I had another look back at like The Handmaid's Tale and The Hunger Games, and kind of focused on how it was shown. So I found that it was kind of like, if you really look at it, it seems like kind of medieval. A lot of like the sadistic kind of future, it's kind of medieval mixed with like overly modern.
Yeah.
So, but not too modern. Like, obviously, no one knows what the future looks like, but it seems to make sense when you're using like the same, like the modernness
Yeah.
today mixed with medieval kind of like torture and like brutality. That's how you kind of show the future, because that's something that's never been seen before.
Right.
So
Yeah.
I thought that was a really good way to show what the future was like. We would kind of keep it the same as today in like the future. We weren't going to make it too flashy.
Yeah.
Then I kind of felt like we were running out of time, so I just kind of decided, let's do a montage scene, because obviously that's very Brechtian technique.
Yeah.
He came up with it, or it was borrowed from silent movies, I believe, but he did come up with it as the original, what a montage is.
Yeah.
So I think we all kind of contributed to each scene, but yeah, I think I came up with like to have it showing the war, and then Doris came up with a soundtrack, and then people came up with other scenes, and it all kind of fitted together at the end.
Yeah.
And then the monologues, I think I did quite a lot of script writing for this performance.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah.
I think me and Tom wrote most of the scripts. I wrote your monologue, where your letter to Doris. So I had to kind of focus on like making it a bit emotional, because I think we wanted to put all the emotion the audience would feel into just your character rather than the play as a whole.
Yeah.
So that we could still alienate them at times when we needed to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then Tom's monologue, which was, I thought would be good to have him kind of showing off how merciless he was and how violent he was.
Yeah.
In his time at war. Okay, Rhianna, do you want to go?
Because obviously I'm more of like the singer in the group, so I thought it was good to have a song, because obviously I know it was mainly acting, but I feel like because we all have different skills, it was good to like show and apply them. So I added the song, and I picked the song Trainwreck because I was just listening to some music, as I do, and I was listening to the song and like the lyrics of it, and I thought like it was very, I thought I picked it very like, it was, I don't know how to explain it, like it was very good for our piece, like it really fit in, yeah. And then when we was like practicing it once, we was still talking about how it was like the war. It was another time we had like a study session at mine, and once I literally just started singing Trenches instead of Trainwreck, and we was like, oh, that actually sounds like quite good as well, and like it makes sense because it was like based around the war. So then I thought like that was good, and then I I think it might have been me and Tom, or maybe me and Doris, come up with the idea of like what was happening within the song. Because I don't think we should just stand around and sing it. I think it should be based on an execution. Because like they're saying, like, I'm not ready to die, and like just being like really, yeah, it's like an emotional kind of song. I also did most of the props, but I also did that with Skye. So I kind of was like the outfits. I kind of picked the scarf, and I thought of like the red for the violence, which kind of contradicts Katrin's character. And then like obviously like the war jackets, but I had to like make sure like we had them all and stuff. And also
you kind of had the job of just making sure everything was in the right place. So
Yeah.
And then with the Monopoly board, like I had two. I had like normal Monopoly and Monopoly Empire, but I really liked the look of the Monopoly Empire. Like I actually proper thought about it because it was based in the future. Like the Monopoly board that we had, I felt it was quite futuristic in a way, because it had like
it's like city buildings kind of.
yeah, and like it just I feel like it looked quite futuristic, so I really liked the look of that. Yeah, and obviously I did contribute a dance, but then we had to scrap that, so that was another thing that I did.
So because like all of our things, all of our stuff, it was kind of, we had like the first 3 scenes like done and it was proper, but like we kind of needed something in between, like because we can't just go from the sergeant finding the letter just to her execution. I felt like we needed like more scenes with Mother Courage and Swiss, because Katrin is a part of their family. I feel like we needed kind of
more realistic in a way.
Yeah, and we kind of needed to see that emotion and that relationship between these characters. So I thought of like Katrin being taken, which kind of developed into Mother Courage and Swiss basically talking to Elif, because he obviously knows more about Katrin's situation, because he knows the sergeant more than Mother Courage and Swiss do. So I thought that was and also Mother Courage and Swiss kind of like blamed Elif for Katrin's death. And then everyone wasn't listening to me, and I was like, guys, we need a scene because it doesn't make sense.
Like Tom or Doris listened to you and then just like put it forward. And then, but you did come up with it originally.
Because we really needed that scene, because I was a bit like, how the hell does this girl go from being at home to being executed? It doesn't really make sense.
Yeah.
So
you kept bringing that up, and I think in the end,
I think we was all kind of.
I was originally saying that there should be a scene where
the rebels, and wasn't it about where Katrin like meets the rebels and stuff, or have I made that up?
I think that was an idea,
I think that was an idea.
I'm more thinking of, I was thinking about like Katrin just being at home and then the army people just coming and just taking her. But obviously you can't really fit that in the time that we had, so we kind of came up with a scene that we performed.
Yeah. Skye's contributions.
Oh, nothing. Due to me coming in late to the group and everything was like already done, like it wasn't completely finished, but they had like the basic idea who all the characters were. So what I tried to do was I tried to contribute wherever I could. Like I'd just look at the script and be like, damn, change that button, make it better.
Skye did help me with some of the script writing.
Yeah, but then I was like, damn, we need guns because everyone's getting shot. And because it's more like a futuristic feel, I feel like they wouldn't have like normal pistols and shotguns, so I brought in my Nerf guns as props.
Also, that kind of like brung the comedic.
Yeah.
So
like
again,
narrations.
you are the comedic.
I brought the comedic
design.
aspect for my death. It was funny.
Yeah, because you were also getting shot, but you were getting shot with a Nerf
Nerf
gun.
gun.
That's funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, we just had to figure out how to get Ruby to shoot.
Yeah, because I have terrible aim.
Yeah.
I basically tried to bring a more comedic aspect to the group through my death, apparently. Bring in Nerf guns, which is funny. Get shot on Nerf gun, die, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's my contribution.
You did right in the monologue I wrote for Tom. That was kind of a joint effort.
Yeah.
So you did help me quite a lot with that. You also you did for your death scene and for the beginning scene. You kind of made your character your own.
Yeah.
You didn't. No one really told you what to do.
Yeah.
So I was just like, let's go crazy.
Your character was
Let's go
like
crazy.
it's just your thing, and I
Yeah.
feel like you've done it really well.
I think everything you did, you kind of decided on yourself.
Yourself.
Yeah, no one
Yeah.
actually,
Because
no one told you what
we
you needed
kinda-
to do.
We kind of told you what needed to happen, but we left you in charge of
Yeah.
What I did.
I
what
think-
you did.
I think it came out okay.
I think it came out
with
perfectly,
everything that
to be honest.
I think with Skye coming in like late as well, I feel like she developed them characters really well.
I
And
tried
I
to
think
do
in
the
the
best
especially with the
with
time
what
she
I
had.
given.
and
yeah,
also
she
coming up
was
with different
she was
things.
working with what she had.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which obviously we had a lot more to
More
work
to
with.
do.
Yeah.
But
And
yeah,
I tried to do like when people were gone, I did the little fill-ins and stuff, which was funny.
yeah.
You
Yeah.
were gone for a day.
yeah, Skye did learn
She was the
everyone else's
understudy.
parts quite
Yeah,
well.
she was the understudy.
She
Yeah.
did kind of like whenever we had a rehearsal and someone wasn't in, Skye would fill in for them.
Yeah.
So she clearly knew the play quite well.
Yeah.
I was
Knew
a
what we
background
were
character
doing.
that could be a fill-in if someone was gone. Except
Oh, no,
Rhianna,
you weren't
I
a
can't
background
sing.
character.
Except because I can't
Can't
sing.
sing.
It's fine. I'll just record it and you can lip sync. It's fine.
Yeah, we could have done that to be fair.
Like Alvin and the Chipmunks.
Yeah.
But I think we did need it at the end to have like the balance out because obviously it was me and some other Courage and then Ruby playing Swiss cheese.
Yeah.
And then on the other side we needed two people for like the song and for the
Yeah.
to show the two sides.
Yeah, so it's a balance.
Because otherwise
Yeah.
there was no one on that side because Elif was really on our side.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I
I
think
think
that's
that's
everything.
it.
We
Thanks for coming to the podcast,
Thank you
Thanks
for listening.
to our
Thank
podcast.
you.
Have a nice night.